Welcome to the 10th Annual Hour with a Hero. Please stand for the presentation of the colors and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the singing of the National Anthem. Post the colors! Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated.
Every day, an American citizen becomes part of the greatest military in the world. Every day, more than 22 veterans die from suicide due to PTSD. Every day, we walk these halls, do our daily routine without fear of war breaking out in our parking lot. Every day, we are protected by America's finest. We're here today because of these people. So join me not just today, but every day in showing our appreciation for these veterans and active military members who risk their lives for our freedom.
Picked us up from Okinawa. When we went to get on a C-130 to be transferred to Vietnam, they were unloading body bags. That was a rude awakening because I knew that me or some of the guys could be coming back that way.
Today is a time for Americans to reconnect with their history and the values of honoring and remembering those who willingly and literally faced death for the freedom and ideals we as Americans cherish.
Every day, we are defended by the lives of our fellow Americans. But who are they?
My brother. My cousin.
My dad.
My dad.
My grandpa and my uncles.
My grandpa.
My father, my brother, and myself.
My dad, my father-in-law, my son, and my students.
We are here today to say thank you, and we are honored to know you. There are many men and women serving today in all branches of this military, here at home and in places far away, some places you never knew about. And they are a part of the best trained, best equipped force in the world. We honor them and their families for the sacrifices they make each and every day to keep our country safe, from terrorism, hatred, and injustice.
Everything that has to do with the United States of America, there's no place like the USA. I mean, whether it's freedom, or whether it's food, or whether it's your family, or whether it's entertainment, or whether it's just the good old USA, you miss the country.
The American soldier, he has sacrificed his blood, his sweat, his tears, and sometimes even his life for his country. And we cannot fathom that because we have not walked through his shoes. We have not seen the things that he has seen. We have not heard what he has heard. So join me, not just today, but every day, in thanking the veteran.
Derl Horn is a native of Springdale, Arkansas, and a graduate of Springdale High School. He spent 39 years as an industrial engineer with Cooper Power, Inc. He married his high school sweetheart, Marilyn Butch Horn, and they have 3 children and 5 grandchildren. He served our country through the US Marine Corps from 1966 to 1968, taking his basic training at Marine Recruiting Depot in San Diego and advanced training at Camp Pendleton, California. He was stationed at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, where he was deployed for 5 months to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, and 10 months in Vietnam. Derl received a Purple Heart and Combat Action Medals for his actions and wounds received during Operation Buffalo and Presidential Unit Citation. In March, Derl completed a book, Blood, Sweat, and Honor, Memories of a Walking Dead Marine in Vietnam, sharing his military experience. Please join me in giving a warm Har-Ber High School welcome to Derl Horn.
Good morning, Har-Ber students and faculty. It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I want to say a special welcome to our veterans and our families and friends that are here today. Thank you for coming. I want to say a special thank you to Mrs. Debbie Lamb and her class of students that have spent so many hours accomplishing this Veterans Day event. They've done a great job. Thank y'all. I'm Derl Horn. I'm a combat veteran of the Vietnam War, and I'm a proud American. I'm here today with my lovely wife, Marilyn, this pretty blonde out here in the red, and my daughter, Kathy, is here. Thank y'all for coming. Marilyn and I have been married for almost 52 years. And I say almost because we celebrate the end of this month. So it's been a great laugh. Happy anniversary, honey. Thank you for joining me as we pay tribute to all veterans who have served this great nation. President Ronald Reagan once said, "Most of those who died in defense of our country were boys when they died. And they gave up 2 lives, the one they were living and the one they would have lived. They gave up their chance to be husbands, fathers, and grandfathers. They gave up everything for their country, for us. All we can do is remember. We've been blessed with generations of brave men and women who have sacrificed their time, their service, and their lives so we can continue to enjoy our freedoms. If not for these brave men and women, the world we know today would be a different place. Today I'd like to recognize all of our veterans. Would y'all just, there aren't too many, give me a hand raise or stand up? Yeah, we have got several. Thank y'all for being here. Let's give them a hand. These are our national heroes. Thank y'all for being here. To each veteran, I want to say thank you for your service to our great nation, the United States of America. From 1962 through 1975, around 3 million of our men and women left their homes to serve our country in Vietnam. 20% of us went in a combat role. The rest were in support roles. We all had an important job to do. There were 58,307 men and women killed in action. Another 1,600 became prisoners of war or were declared missing. And it's heartbreaking to say most are still missing. Over 150,000 of us veterans were combat wounded. Some had wounds that could be seen, but many wounds were unseen. As most of you know, we did not come home to a Vietnam hero welcome or patriotic rally of support. Instead, we were greeted with confusion, anger, and resentment from our fellow citizens. We were blamed for a war that consumed America for over 10 years. It was a sad time in our nation's history. Like many veterans who were involved in different wars, I did not talk about my experiences for many years, like about 35 or so. Most people I worked with did not even know that I had served until about a year ago. The Arkansas Democrat Gazette came and interviewed me for a profile page. After the story was published, many of my friends and coworkers called. They wanted to know, why had you not shared that you were a Vietnam veteran? And I told them, I said, well, I didn't share because it was a difficult thing to talk about your combat experiences. And at that time, when we came home from Vietnam, it was not a popular thing. I'm happy that attitudes have changed in the last 10 years or so, at least for me. I've been thanked for my service many times. I realize it's way overdue, but I really appreciate it. And there's so many words of thanks that I've heard. Today, people recognize me as a veteran because I sometimes wear a cap or a shirt with a logo and my Purple Heart license plate. Recently, I was thanked while Marilyn and I were in a coffee shop with family, and I got a phone call. I stepped outside to take the call, and as I was talking, this young lady walked by. She passed me, and she was looking at me and smiling like she knew me, and I'm thinking, I don't recognize you. But anyway, she went on into the coffee shop, and when I finished my conversation, I walked in the coffee shop, and this lady came over to me. She took both my hands, she looked me in the eyes, and she said that she wanted to thank me for my service and that she really appreciated me. I was pretty caught off guard, a little bit embarrassed. I didn't know what to say or do, and I mean, those kind of words are kind of hard. And finally, I think all I said was, "Thank you, ma'am." I hope that many of you veterans have had similar experiences like that. All veterans have stories that should be told to family and friends about their experiences. I chose to tell mine in a book titled Blood, Sweat, and Honor, Memoirs of a Walking Dead Marine in Vietnam. I wrote this book at the request of family and friends to share some of my experiences. I also wanted to show my fellow veterans that you can survive after war without turning to drugs and alcohol to drown out your war memories. And that it's possible to go on and have a productive life. And I especially wanted to share how God guided and protected me during this time. This book has been very therapeutic and healing for me. Along with writing this book and having some counseling at the VA, my experiences in PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder issues, I am now able to talk about my combat experiences. I encourage my fellow veterans to talk about your experiences, family and friends, and maybe even write something. One of the most commonly used phrases during the Vietnam War was the words, "It don't mean nothing." I'm sure many of you veterans have said this or heard it said. was just a way of coping. It was a coping mechanism. It was a way to hide the fear, the anger, the pain, and the bleeding and dying in rice paddies and on unnamed hills that we would take one day and have to retake on another day. The real truth is that all of life events actually do matter. They do mean something. We have to learn to deal with our past and make the best of it. Most family and friends want to know what we went through, but are afraid to ask. It might surprise you veterans to learn how much it helps to share your story. I chose the title Blood, Sweat, and Honor for my book because there was so much blood spilled for that little country of Vietnam to hopefully stop the spreading of communism. And sweat, it was chosen because we were just a bunch of sweaty, grungy, dirty kids. And we went without baths weeks on end. We didn't even take our boots off at night because we didn't have a 24/7, or we did have a 24/7 job. And we had to be ready for the next battle. The honor part was because I saw so many great men serve with honor, and many even to their death, as some of you veterans probably have as well. The Walking Dead Marine subtitle comes from General Gnap, the leader of the North Vietnam military, who vowed that he would wipe out our outfit. 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, 3rd Marine Division. We had caused so much havoc for them and had defeated them in so many battles that he was determined and confident that he could wipe us out. So he tagged us Dead Men Walking. The sad part is that they almost did wipe us out, but we prevailed. Thus our battalion attained the title of the Walking Dead. And this is not the TV series that some of you enjoy today. We are the real Walking Dead. And we're proud of this title because we prevailed. And another reason for this title was because our battalion had more killed in action than any other battalion in Vietnam. This is my story. It's been a long time coming, about 9 years. I have books available if anybody's interested. You can see my wife, me, or Miss Debbie Lamb after the assembly or sometime. They're also available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. And that's my commercial. The reality of Vietnam set in for me while I stood on the tarmac in Okinawa beside a C-130 and watched large black body bags being unloaded from the plane that would soon transport me to Vietnam. I knew that we were the replacements for these men who had been killed in action. I had a terrible sinking feeling, along with the sharp pain of reality that some of us standing there would be returning as well in those body bags. I'm sad to say that way too many did. My first day in the field of Vietnam, my company was caught in a mortar attack by our own people, thinking we were the enemy. My second day in the field, we were ambushed by the Viet Cong. My company fought and killed all the enemy with the exception of 2 that we captured. But in the process, 1 of our Marines were killed and 3 of them were wounded. At this point, I'm actually praying, Lord, if it's going to be like this every day, how can I survive? As you war veterans know, some days were better, some days were worse. I'm thankful to God to be here today, but I still mourn for our brothers who paid the ultimate sacrifice. A month later, my company of 150 men were on a search and destroy mission called Operation Buffalo, out along the demilitarized zone, where we met up with 5 battalions of the North Vietnam Army, amounting to around 5,000 enemy soldiers. The odds, 150 of us versus 5,000 enemy, the odds were not good. By the time reinforcements arrived, 59 of our men in my company had been killed, and another 65 were critically wounded. I was fortunate to be one of the 26 survivors. Most of the survivors were wounded at least once. I had been wounded twice. The critically wounded were medevaced out. I was never sure what happened to most of them, except for the 2 that returned to our company a couple of months later, after a time in the hospital. One of those Marines, Ronnie Fields, had jumped in front of me, taking 2 bullets and saving my life. Ronnie deserved the highest award for heroism and valor for this act of putting his life at risk for a fellow Marine. He did not receive any recognition for his bravery, but there were many acts of heroism that day that were never recognized, primarily because no officers were left to report the acts. They all had died in the battle. In the end, there were just a few of us fighting for each other and for our own lives. All across America, there are hundreds of Ronnies who never get recognized. There are probably a few in here today. I feel that I'm here today because of prayer. God spared my life because I had so many family and friends back home praying for me. And I guess he just wasn't finished with me yet, and he's still working on me. My tour in Vietnam started in May of 1967 and ended in February of 1968. I came home on a snowy Valentine's Day to my beautiful wife and 2.5-month-old twin daughters. One of those daughters is here today. It was the best day of my life. A few years ago, my wife and I were able to visit the War Memorial in Washington, D.C. The Vietnam Memorial Wall is special to me. Veterans, if you have not attended your memorial, I highly recommend that you go. I didn't want to go at first because I didn't know how I could handle it emotionally, but I'm really glad that I did. I was privileged to honor those 58,307 veterans who paid the ultimate sacrifice. Each one of those names on the wall represents an individual and their families. It's hard to imagine all the hurt and grief caused by those deaths. I have many friends on that wall, as I'm sure some of you do as well. That black granite wall contains the names of 749 Marines from my battalion that paid the ultimate sacrifice in Vietnam. On one block of that wall are the names of 59 of my buddies, all killed in one day, July 2nd, 1967, during Operation Buffalo. Y'all may think these are tears. It's just my eyes sweat sometimes. I believe it's never too late to pay tribute to our veterans who served and continue to serve with valor, courage, and honor during the wars and even in peacetime. Today, we want to honor all of our veterans who have answered the call to our great nation and have become productive members of our communities, making this nation a better place. We all need to thank God not only for the gift of life, but for the gift of our veterans who have given something of themselves to this country. Through our nation's history, over 1.3 million have given all, laying down their lives to defend the freedoms we hold so dear. Thank you all for being here today and for celebrating with our veterans. May God bless you, God bless our veterans, and may God continue to bless the United States of America. And on behalf of a grateful nation, I want to salute each of you veterans and say, thank you, thank you, thank you.
We would just like to thank Mr. Horn for coming today and sharing his story. Let's give him one more round of applause. We would also like to thank any other veterans in attendance. So if you're a veteran in attendance today, would you please stand? We want to thank you guys so much for coming today. Students, you are now dismissed back to class.